Hey everybody, as we start the show, I want to tell you about Underdog Collectibles. They're one of my sponsors, and they're a new shop based in Knoxville, Tennessee. They're run by collectors and for collectors. Join them as they break every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night, and they ship the cards out the next day. You'll find the hottest new products in a community that's fun to hang out with as well. Join the Underdogs at udogcollect.com or on Facebook. Always bet on the Underdog. You're listening to the WaxPackHero Sports Card Minute, a podcast where we discuss both the hobby and business sides of collecting. I'm your host, Mike Summer, and I want to help you buy, sell, and trade your way into a collection you'll love. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 50th episode of the WaxPackHero Sports Card Minute. We've made it 50 episodes. I wasn't sure if I would make it this long when I started back in December, but I knew I wanted to give it a chance and have some fun and learn something new along the way, and that's what I've done. And I want to thank all of you for supporting the show, for listening, for providing me feedback on how I can make it better, and being patient with me as I learned along the way. I still got a lot of learning to do. I think there are still more improvements that I can make as the show continues, but excited that I've made it through 50 episodes so far, and I just wanted to thank you for being a part of that journey. Today, I sat down with Ben Wilson. He's one of the co-hosts of the About the Cards show. He is also one of the co-hosts of the Hobby Hotline, and he's somebody I met through actually as a customer. He was a customer of mine on Sport Lots, and we had ultimately started following each other on Twitter, got to know each other a little bit, got to know him a little bit better through the About the Cards show as well as the Hobby Hotline. He's somebody who's quite opinionated, and he doesn't pull any punches when he's interacting with people on Twitter, and some people appreciate that about Ben, and that also, as Ben admits, rubs some people the wrong way. And so we talk a little bit about his collecting background, his online persona, and some of the things that come along with that. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. I know I enjoyed getting a chance to sit down and talk with Ben. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and run the interview. All right. Well, today I want to welcome to the show Ben Wilson, one of my fellow co-hosts on the Hobby Hotline, somebody that I've had a chance to sit in on some of their shows on the About the Cards podcast, and wanted to bring in Ben today just to chat with another fellow collector and a fellow content creator, and just to kind of see how things are going. So welcome, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I really appreciate it. Love your podcast. Love that About the Cards podcast is kind of the dad of yours.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I hear that About the Cards birthed my podcast. I'm willing to accept that. That's fine. You guys did give me a start in front of the microphone, and getting a chance to sit in on you guys' show really kind of helped me understand that it was something that I enjoyed. So there is a little bit of truth to that.
Well, it's on YouTube now forever and ever. So even if you don't like it, even if we just made it up on the spot, it's on YouTube. So
it's got to be true.
It's fact.
Well, I thought we could start with, just a question about your A's fandom. Most people, if they've been listening at all to you or follow you at all, they know you are an A's fan and an A's super collector. But I don't know that I've ever heard the story about how you actually became an A's fan.
Yeah, so it kind of all happened at the same time, both trading cards and being an A's fan. I was 7 at my cousin's 10th birthday party, and my aunt gave everybody 2 packs of Topps 86, and my cousin was an A's fan. My aunt suffered from epilepsy. It ended up taking her life in '93, and she worked up and down the California, basically the whole state, working with firefighters, police officers, a lot of different state agencies that dealt with the public, to know the difference between somebody who was drunk and somebody who was suffering from epileptic seizures, post seizure, because they're very similar. And as a result, we got a lot of A's tickets as a family. A lot of A's season ticket holders at the time. That team was getting really good, as we were getting into '87. And so my cousin collected the team. It very well could have easily been the San Francisco Giants, but it just ended up being the East Bay and the A's. So that's kind of where going to 30 games a year in 87, 88, 89 spawned my love for the team. And then, the trading cards went along with it.
Now, so you collected, throughout your childhood, it sounds like. Did you collect kind of everything then? Was it only baseball? Was it multiple sports? What did you collect earlier on?
Sure. It was 90%, 95% baseball. Obviously, with the A's, we would get everything that came with the complete set, and then generally try to get a team set on the side for an A's binder. And then, back then when we were collecting in the junk wax era, you could theoretically collect just about everything your heart desired. There was a limitation to how many sets there were. In fact, when I first got in 87, Score was still a year away. Upper Deck was 2 years away. Leaf was 4 years away. Donruss and Fleer were still relatively in their infancy. So outside of the complete sets, you really just had all those the 33 and 44 card sets that you'd get over at Remco and KB and Woolworths and whatnot. So, but coming back into the hobby in 2010, took me 6 months to realize you can't collect anything unless you're a millionaire and have finite, infinite resources, or at least higher resources than that of an hourly wage person.
Sure. So is that the point then that you narrowed your focus to only collecting A's and kind of pivoted to being an A's only collector?
Yeah, I started collecting McFarlane's actually in 2010, and I went into an LCS trying to grab a specific Lou Gehrig variant. It was the sepia version of him bowing his head in front of the infamous microphone. And while I was in there, my wife and I were talking. She's like, "Okay, you can get one box of cards from one sport," and I let her choose it. And it was 2010 Topps football. We went home and built the set. This was the first time I found autographs and relics in packs. And I liked baseball and liked the A's. So I was like, can I steer her towards that? And after a few months, it kind of became, we're just going to collect a little bit of whatever. And then you start realizing I'm spending hundreds of dollars and can't complete sets in a lot of the cases. The insert sets, you can't complete those. Products are coming out faster than you can open it. It took about 2 years. 2012 Topps Chrome really was the one that said, hey, you're not going to be able to collect everything. So what makes me most happy? And I always tell people this all the time when they're trying to focus their collection is what makes you happy at the end of the day? Is it collecting complete sets, insert sets, autos, relics? Do you just want to collect a player or a team or some combination thereof? And if you can ask yourself that and answer it honestly, because only you know your finances, I had to ask myself that. So around 2012, late summers when I decided I'm just going to have to collect the A's. I can't do anything else.
All right. Now, you like to discuss your deep knowledge of economics and business, yet you also seem to relish as being a collector only. And so I was just kind of curious, what is your aversion to selling and maybe the business side of collecting?
This is one of those, and I know you and I see a lot. Our philosophy on cards and business, despite the fact that I don't partake like you do, as a self-sustaining hobby, we do have a lot of the same philosophy on how to get from point A to point B from a financial side. And this is really where my education and resume conflicts with my collector side, because, on one hand, everything that I've done since the time I turned 18, whether it's education or work experience, suggests you should be selling and I could be extremely successful, but at the same time, it's like, this is a hobby. It was a hobby when I was 7 and I didn't care about the selling side. Granted, I need everybody to open up packs for me because I need those A's cards out of there, and I'm not doing it myself. So I need people like yourself, a lot of our mutual friends, and then just people we don't know on eBay that can, support that side. But there's definitely a lot of money in this hobby to be made that goes without saying. And if you do it right, you very well could be successful like yourself. And I know you've spoken on a lot of your podcasts about how to create a self-sustaining hobby for yourself, how you can get it over time. Of course, it's not overnight, but to really build a foundation as to how I can buy and sell and collect at the same time and have your purchases basically collecting is right in the middle. I'm going to buy something, I'm going to keep everything I want and sell off the rest. And that creates a self-sustaining hobby, because you're going to open up a box of cards and you're not going to want everything. And there's nothing wrong with selling off the excess to either, fund your hobby solely, or at least a portion thereof. And some people are going to be better than others. But I do think that is not the same as flipping or ripping and flipping and quote unquote investing in cards.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a middle ground, and that's the line that I try to walk. I think, there's a piece of that buying and selling for me that adds to the enjoyment. It's the things that I'm able to acquire to keep for my own personal collection. I enjoy them more personally when I know that I've purchased them through the profits I've made from buying and selling other cards. And so that whole process for me adds to the enjoyment of collecting, of trading cards, of the overall hobby world. And so I was just kind of curious, because, one of those things that we all have been talking about a lot, especially recently, is the increasing costs associated with acquiring a collection. And so I just, with your business background, I've just been kind of curious on why you've hesitated on starting to potentially work towards offsetting some of that cost. And so I was just curious.
Well, I've considered it. Again, you're the devil on one shoulder versus the devil on the other. Devil versus angel. The old saying about an accountant's checkbook is never balanced, a landscaper's yard is never maintained, so on and so forth. You can say that for just about most every profession. And the reason is you do this for a living, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week for 30 years, 40 years of your life. The last thing you want to do is make something you enjoy part of, the second it goes from being a hobby into a business, because now you're not dealing with, just your money, just Mike's finances, just Ben's finances. Now you're dealing with everybody who's a customer of yours. We've talked about this before. If you get 10 Sport Lots orders, doesn't matter if they're minimal or $100. Bottom line is you have 10 Sport Lots orders. You've accepted money from me and 9 other people.
Yep. And
you're now responsible to package those up, and you may or may not make an equitable amount of return on if you're looking at one sale in a vacuum. But there's still a time associated with that. Maybe you do, maybe that is cathartic and you enjoy that, but as a whole, it makes it very difficult when I get a package in the mail today and I catalog it, enjoy it, and file it into my binder. Again, there's nothing wrong with creating a self-sustaining hobby. I think we've all considered it. You yourself are living proof that it can be done very well. And, I guess the big issue I have is, let's talk for a moment, and hopefully I don't trump a question of yours. But we know that the McGuire Sosa documentary is coming out. And because of what I collect and the amount of McGuires in my collection, the financial advisor in me tells me you're really a dum-dum if you don't go sell all of your McGuires. How many 87 McGuires do you need? If you've acquired them at an average of, say, 50 cents, therefore I've got 300 or 400 of them laying in a binder. And whenever somebody asks me, how many Project 2020s are you going to buy, or how many Topps Living are you going to buy of a player, I always tell them the same thing. 1, because that's all you need. And then I go have this binder that's got 620 87 McGuires. Why not just keep 3 or 4? 1 for the team set, 1 for the complete set, 1 for a McGuire binder, and sell all the rest, because right now they're from what I paid. So if you extrapolate that, a $300, $400 binder all of a sudden becomes $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is it's probably not sustainable, because it is a false market at the moment, because people are diving in with new money's coming in. People think that they want it today. It's like, man, if you didn't want this card for the last 35 years, when you could have it pennies on the dollar, you probably don't want it at the top of the bell curve, because everybody wants it now, right? You're literally just a sheep. And that means no offense to anybody, because sometimes it is, right? The G.I. Joe movie came out. I got to go buy all the G.I. Joes from when I was a kid now, because I enjoyed them so much. It's like, well, yeah, but understand, you're not alone. And you and 500, 600, 700 people are doing the same thing, and that's what's driving that cost. and most everybody's going to kind of turn the back at some point and say, I don't really need this. Let me cash out. We're seeing that with Project 2020 right now.
Sure. So on Twitter, you are the self-proclaimed sports antagonist.
Right.
Why try to incite arguments and angst?
I hope it's more debate, right? You and I have had a lot of business and financial debates, and I hope it's done with respect, right? What is your favorite baseball team?
The Cubs.
Okay, and I'm an A's fan. Luckily for us, because it's American and National League, we can both appreciate the other team without it being a rival. We're not fighting for the same division. It'd be different if it was Cubs and Cardinals or A's and Astros. And at the end of the day, what I try to strive for is you and I can have a conversation until we're blue in the face about which franchise is better, dating back to the dawn of time. And the beauty is both teams were original baseball teams back in the 1800s. So it's not like it's, us talking about Pirates versus the Diamondbacks, where the history just isn't there. But at the end of the day, we can make all of our arguments, A's versus Cubs, Cubs versus A's, and neither one is going to convince the other one that their team is better than the other. And we can still walk away maybe having learned something, right? Maybe I don't know as much Cubs history as you do, and maybe I can learn something, and that's what's fun. And originally I was the sports antagonist on Twitter because I was going to have a baseball-based podcast that was just going to kind of do like a weekend review type thing, for baseball alone. It's not going to be card related whatsoever. And then I got really, really sick right before that took off, and I was hospitalized for a while. And so that kind of fell off the back burner. So then it was just the moniker kind of stuck. And it's, I hope that people see it as healthy debate. Let's talk about our sides, because right now you have so many topics in this world, especially right now, that are so sensitive and heightened. I think we really can discuss our points of view, and we can walk away friends and having learned something from somebody else. We can still break bread tomorrow, despite the fact we disagreed today.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think debate is good, and I think debate is healthy. I think sometimes it seems that when that crosses the line is when the name calling starts, or that type of thing forces people maybe to cross the line they weren't originally intending to cross at the beginning. Have you ever admitted you were wrong on Twitter?
God, no. Why would I? Michael, we've known each other for quite a while now. What a silly question. I
had to ask.
Okay, so saying I'm sorry or I'm wrong is extremely hard, right? It's just natural, right? We all would like to think we're the smartest person in our own mind. So I suppose I've said sorry and I'm wrong in a backhanded avenue, like a back alley kind of a way, where I'm not admitting anything that can be used against me at a later date. But that's also part of what's fun is like, hey, just like the kid that got caught in the cookie jar, right? I'm eating the cookie. You see it in my mouth. It's all over my face because I just shoved it in there. It's all over my chest because the cookie, crumbs are everywhere. And I'm still drawing that line in the sand that I didn't eat nothing. And that's what's kind of fun about it, too. And at the end of the day, it's just Twitter, man. It's just social media. Have fun with it. There's so many people that take it so serious. One of my favorite comebacks are, man, do you internet serious? You know, it's like you take it so – and my writing is very I come across like an a-hole often when I write. And I don't do it intentionally. It's just the way I write, right? I've had so many people that have watched my podcast go, man, you're nothing like you are on Twitter. You're actually kind of a nice guy. And I'm like, thank you. But no, I'm not going to admit that I'm wrong. Unless I admitted it, then I guess I'm going to have to admit right now that I'm wrong by saying I didn't.
Let's get back to something that you touched on a minute ago when I was asking about the buying and the selling. You said you want to be careful about drawing that or not drawing a line or crossing a line that takes away the enjoyment that you have from collecting.
Right.
So what would you say is the thing that you enjoy the most about collecting?
What are baseball cards, right? Football cards. They're just a picture of an athlete on a piece of cardboard. Some are more aesthetically pleasing than others, right? What is it that really draws us into collecting these, and that's the memories, the associated memories that we have either acquiring these cards or the player themselves, right? We can go back to a moment in time when such and such threw a really great game, maybe a no-hitter even. I think today's the 45th anniversary of Doc Ellis, or maybe that was yesterday, having pitched his perfect game on LSD. It's like we associate these with memories. It takes us back to our childhood. So for me, when I look at Oakland A's cards, especially with the onslaught of all the modern day older players that they make, right? You don't get a release without all of these retired legends and whatnot. I was talking to a fellow collector the other day who collects Will Clark heavily. And, obviously McGuire and Will Clark are kind of synonymous in the Bay Area with one another. And it's like, it's difficult that they're making so many new products with these guys, but it's also kind of cool because we can go back to when we were 10 and collect our favorite players from our youth all over again. And I think that's really why what I get is the enjoyment of being able to document a season. It's that puzzle, that chase of, again, it's cathartic. It's relaxing. I suffer from high blood pressure, extremely high blood pressure. So when I can open up my database and I have all of my Oakland A's cards cataloged and I've got new ones to put in, for me, it's just exciting. I would imagine it would be the same as other people that get thrills working on cars. My wife loves to swim and whatnot. It's like, I'm not a big swimmer anymore. People work in the garden, people go for bike rides for fun, which is just weird to me, but they do, so we all have things. And then of course, anybody, yourself included, anybody out there that's listening to your show right now shares that same passion with us, maybe differently because they choose to collect differently. But at the end of the day, we're all brothers and sisters under the same umbrella. And, even when people pull other cards that aren't A's cards, I really enjoy seeing what other people have chosen to collect for themselves and seeing some of the beauty and the art behind it. Because I think that's really what it is. It's all art. And people are with Project 2020, it's like, that's really art, right? Mm-hmm. From artists. And people are acting like this is the first time they've ever considered a baseball card as art. And I'm like, have you seen the 1952 top set? Have you seen the 53 top set? These are just wonderful works of art. We both share a good friend, Nick Wasika, who's a photographer.
Yep.
That's art. The artistry and the Stadium Club cards, the beauty of the captured in a moment as it's happening in real time is just phenomenal. And I think that's what I personally enjoy the most.
Do you ever see yourself continuing to adapt or evolve your focus? Or is there something that would cause you to consider adapting your focus again?
As far as the PC goes?
Yeah.
No, because at the end of the day, again, resources are finite for all of us. And some of us have a little bit more. Some of us can create a self-sustaining hobby to kind of, put our money right back where it came from. But for me, it's just A's cards are the best. Even when I see something like Topps Living, which I've dabbled in, I've got about a third of the set. Most of them are retired players with some select players that, eventually will get there, right? The Max Scherzers of the world. So I kind of am selective with that. But the way I look at it, every $5 I spend that isn't an A's card is $5 I could have spent on an A's card.
What about from the perspective of still being A's focused, but potentially pivoting to, I'm no longer going to worry about tracking down certain parallels or certain inserts. I'm only going to focus on the standard base cards, or I'm not going to worry about new releases and I'm going to focus more on getting all of the vintage and pre-war and all of the old stuff that I've never gotten before. And that's where I'm going to put my focus. Even within the A's realm, are there considerations of ever adapting what you go after?
Yeah, my ultimate goal, my database goes back to 1909. If in a perfect world, I would have every card from 1909 through current, every base card and insert card first and foremost. Ultimately, that's really where I want my focus to be. And I do collect some team sets. A lot of what I'm missing still are either the higher price stuff from the pre-war era, or some of the harder to find stuff from like some of the food issues in the 50s and 60s. But a lot of it is from when I stopped collecting around 93 till around 09. And a lot of those can be bought as team sets. It's just a matter of going out there and spending that same $100 on 15 team sets that are going to net you 300 cards. I have tried to pull back over the last year or so on not buying every autograph or relic that comes out. It's difficult. Obviously, with COVID, I ended up spending a lot more money on Gypsy Queen and Donruss this year because that's where the hobby kind of stagnated and paused for a moment. But yeah, it's like, with some of the stuff that can move forward, right now, Tier 1 is out. Diamond Icons, as of this recording, is the next big one on the release calendar. And if I don't get anything from that, I don't get anything from that. How many Jesus Luzardo autos do you really need unless that's your PC?
Right.
If that's your guy and that's all you're going to collect, like our friend Tanner Jones, who was Conseco and Conseco only, and he had to have every parallel ever from 1 of 1 all the way up to the highest one, as well as base cards, and good for him. But you know what? He wasn't collecting really much outside of that.
Well, I think that gave people a little look under the hood of Ben Wilson, and I think that will be good for people to hear. Where can people follow you, Ben?
Sure, I'm on Twitter, if you haven't blocked me already, at ourtradingcards, OUR-tradingcards. And then, of course, at About the Cards, as well as our weekly podcast, which, as of this recording, I think you might be on it this week with us.
Yes, I think I will. It will probably have been, this will probably be coming out on Friday. So it will probably have been a couple days before in the past. So go back and check out the last episode of About the Cards if you want to see a special co-host.
Special's right. It's always fun when you're on, though. And so, About the Cards, and of course the Hobby Hotline, which is now available Saturdays and Mondays. Saturdays at 8 a.m. Pacific, and I think we're kind of settling on Monday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern, and whatever time it is in the middle of the country.
7 Central.
So, but yeah, we have a lot of fun on that, and man, again, you learn so much, and I think that's really what is fun about social media. What's fun about the podcasts? We can learn from each other, and then the Hobby Hotline, we're learning from our listeners all the time, and of course from one another, and we all bring a slightly different perspective on the hobby, and I think that's what's unique is, we're all the different flavors of the rainbow.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to be a part of so far.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for coming on.
Anytime, Mike. Appreciate it.
There you have it. Another little peek behind the curtain of the man that is Ben Wilson. Thanks, Ben, again for coming on and taking the time to chat a little bit about the hobby and your thoughts on a variety of issues. Reach out and let me know what you think about that interview and the podcast in general. You can reach me at waxpackhero@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter at @TheMikeSummer, on TikTok at WaxPackHero, and a variety of other social media locations. I would love to hear your thoughts. You can also listen to the Hobby Hotline live each Saturday morning and Monday evening. We take calls from you, the listener, and get a chance to just hang out and talk about cards, what's on your mind, what questions you have, and just hear from a variety of resources in the hobby. So check out the Hobby Hotline as well. Well, that's all I've got for you today. So thanks for listening, and I'll catch you later.